I think Pride is a really important part of the calendar for LGBT people. I think it's a perfect situation to bring everyone together and to celebrate our kind of uniqueness. I think as well what it does is it helps people who perhaps may be struggling with their sexual identity or sexual orientation, their gender identity, and it brings them together and helps normalise it for them. They can have, they can meet other people who have had similar experiences, have gone through some of the same things, and for a lot of people, and including myself, that's been a really important part of Pride and what I've gained from it personally. I think it's vital that it continues to kind of be emphasised, and also I think as well what's been really important to me is certain events of Pride. For example, like the parade that happens. There was a moment which I remember really clearly when I was watching the parade, and I was stood next to a family who had young kids, and I thought that's absolutely brilliant, because it's not just for LGBT people, it's for other people to come and support the community, and the young children who are there are going to remember that event, and it's going to help change people's kind of opinions, and hopefully stop prejudice in the future against LGBT people. So I think, like a lot of people, I found it particularly difficult working through the pandemic. At the time of working, when COVID hit, I was working in the community, and obviously everything went virtual, so I was working from home a lot. And that felt quite isolating, to be honest with you. I felt like I missed out on a lot of those conversations, those quick conversations that you might have when you're walking down the corridor, that can really help on kind of like a personal and also a professional level. And obviously we have meetings on a regular basis and everything like that, but it doesn't replace that. So I found it quite difficult, I found it quite stressful, and I know a lot of other people did as well. I know a lot of my coping strategies for stress got taken away from me, things like, like going to the gym, for example, going out to cinema or theatre or whatever, that was all shut. So it was really challenging. I think I was quite lucky at the time that I had a very supportive team around me who kind of worked together to make sure that that feeling of isolation didn't become overwhelming. And I feel like that's the case for most teams in psychiatry, to be honest with you. We are hyper aware of what events like this how they can affect people's mental health. And so, we do look out for each other and try and support each other through that. So I found that really, really helpful. I don't think celebrating Pride after the pandemic has changed its meaning. I think what it's done is it's made it more important than ever. We already know that rates of mental illness in LGBT people are higher than in the general community. And obviously during the COVID pandemic, the rates of mental illness increased significantly. People found it really challenging, and that has obviously had an adverse impact on the LGBT community. So I think it just highlights the importance of events like Pride more, if anything. Pride is all about coming together, supporting each other, bringing, no matter what your kind of niche is, bringing you together with other people who care about that and it's important to them. So I think it just highlights how vital it is to continue focusing on Pride, to help people feel more supported and looked after, and that they're not alone. So I think it's absolutely vital that the college supports Pride. I think there's two main reasons that the college should support Pride. Firstly, I think that it's absolutely vital from the perspective of young doctors who might be thinking about what careers they want to take in the future. You know, the NHS isn't perfect. There is still prejudice and stigma against LGBT doctors, unfortunately at times. And I think it's vital that the Royal College of Psychiatrists shows that psychiatry is a really supportive, kind, caring environment for LGBT doctors to consider a career in psychiatry in the future. You know, we want doctors of the future to feel welcome, to be one of the best doctors that we can get, and that's the way to do it, to make sure that everyone feels part of, you know, the Royal College of Psychiatrists, that they feel they can be part of that team, and that's absolutely vital. I think alongside that, you know, I think it can be very difficult for people who are part of the LGBT community to open up about the mental health issues. It can be there can be quite diarrhea there, and there's a lot of stigma associated with that. So I think if the college is able to make people feel more comfortable about doing that, showing that they'll be welcome, they won't be judged, there won't be any prejudice against them, and that they'll be, you know, welcomed with open arms, you know, to share their stories, to share their difficulties, then I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think it's great that the Royal College of Psychiatrists is supporting Pride as much as it is. So yeah, I am aware of the first LGBT plus survey that the Royal College of Psychiatrists completed, and I took part in that. From a personal perspective, I found it really interesting and helpful to kind of reflect on my own experiences of working within the NHS and psychiatry as an LGBT doctor. So it helped me think about, to be honest with you, all of the positive experiences I've actually had working in psychiatry as a gay man. You know, I've had really positive experiences working with the doctors, with the mental health nurses, with the teams in general, and it made me think about actually how glad I am that I came into psychiatry because of those experiences that I've had, all those positive experiences. I do think more generally, I think it's really helpful that we look into some of the difficulties that doctors may be having if they are part of the LGBT community. And I think if there's anything that can be done to identify those problems, identify that prejudice or stigma that they might be experiencing, and work on that, see if there's kind of projects or strategies that we can take to try and improve people's experiences, then I think that's a wonderful thing, really. We want every doctor to feel welcomed, you know, within psychiatry, and if there are any doctors who don't feel welcomed, we want to understand why and work out what we can do to improve that situation for them in the future.